So almost a week ago, there was a tournament that I went to that was here in New York City, and this deck is what took down the victory. So I didn't end up winning. I actually got taken out by this deck in the second round, and then losing in the losers bracket after trying to find my way back up. But this deck felt a little oppressive, and it felt like it had an answer for everything that I was bringing against it. So I played a bit of this deck on ladder, tested it out. I do think it is very strong. Seems to have a lot of answers, and with the balance patch a couple days ago, it just got stronger because Thanos went from a 8 power unit to an 11 power unit. It does now have an issue with Shang-Chi. One of the benefits of this deck before that buff was that none of the cards could get Shang-Chi. So in a format where there was a tournament where almost everyone in the tournament had brought Shang-Chi, this was one deck that kind of subverted those expectations that there was nothing to hit. So I do think that this deck is still stronger with the Thanos buff, but now you just have to make that consideration that if you do end up pulling Thanos out early, you have to watch out for Shang-Chi. So let me break down this deck for you, exactly what it's trying to do. The first thing that you'll notice is Thanos, right? So Thanos here is going to shuffle all of these Space Stone, Reality Stone, all these into your deck. And one thing with that is you have Quinjet, which will reduce the cost of cards that didn't start in your deck. So all of those didn't start in your deck, so they're all free. As with any Thanos deck, you want to run Quinjet, get those cards out there. Pretty much, I used to say this deck's not about playing Thanos out, it's about playing the stones out and utilizing those well. Thanos now at 11 power, though, might be played out a bit more, so we'll see. And then you run pretty much a couple cards that are going to buff your 1-drops and just your other cards in general. So Blue Marvel and Khazar are going to help those cards out. And then you're running kind of a mini ongoing package. So you have the Quinjet, which is ongoing. You have 2 stones that are ongoing. Both the Power Stone and the Soul Stone are both ongoing. And then you run Spectrum to buff up those ongoing cards. So you have Ant-Man, Quinjet, Armor, Mr. Fantastic, Khazar, Blue Marvel, and the 2 stones are all ongoing. So that kind of adds an extra little synergy there. And then you run a couple tech cards, Leech and Valkyrie. So Leech is going to just stop a lot of those big turn 6 plays that you can't really deal with sometimes. It locks down people who want to just like arrow you, or like maybe even play out like multiple big cards in the last turn in some sort of cheating out way. A lot of the times it's just going to completely crush your opponent when they get leeched. And if you have enough power on the board, a lot of times when you're playing out stones for free plus a leech, or if you happen to play leech into a lockjaw or get it out of a lockjaw, it ends up being very powerful. So that's also another thing here is lockjaw. So lockjaw, with all those 1-drops in your deck, you can just be dropping cards onto that lockjaw. One extra thing is the Space Stone adds a cool little synergy with lockjaw that when you play it there, any card you play out of there, you can move it to any other lane the following turn. So you can play cards in there, fill up the lane, and then also move a card off of it so you can play more into there later if you want. It's a very cool thing. Valkyrie is one card that is a little bit off meta right now, potentially, but going to be more on meta coming up just because it's one of those cards that Shuri is so popular right now, and Valkyrie kind of dominates that Shuri meta. When you get a big card out there and you Valk it, if you're able to get into priority going into the final turn, that Shuried card that they played on turn 5 will just get completely nuked down to 3 power. So if they try and Arnim Zola it, or they try and Taskmaster it, it's going to be a 3 power unit, so makes it much, much worse for your opponent. So Valkyrie, definitely a good tech card in here. So both Leech and Valkyrie kind of shut down a couple different strategies. You're able to get a lot of power because you're buffing things up with Khazar and Blue Marvel, and now with the bigger Thanos himself, you can even have a big card out there. Mr. Fantastic, just a great card choice to steal priority early on. It's ongoing. It's 6 power for 3. With the Spectrum, it gets an extra buff. So it's just a good card to throw in here. But I do think that that card is potentially a little bit flexible. Armor, great choice here for that extra ongoing synergy as well. Plus, it protects your 1-drops from something like Killmonger. Just a little bit of how to play that Valkyrie out again. Ant-Man, and Soulstone are going to be keys in Valkyrie lanes, just because if you both have full lanes for Valkyrie, you want that extra ongoing buff after the 3 power change for everything becoming 3 power. Ant-Man will then be above that 3 power. And similar with Soulstone, if both sides are 3 power, the Soulstone will reduce the other opponent's side. So one thing to watch out for with the Valkyrie as well is to play it against any ongoing stuff, so you don't want your opponent to have anything that is buffing their side after the power reduction. So let's get into some games and see how this plays out. So one thing you want to look for early is that Quinjet. It'll just give you that value that you want for playing out the stones for cheap. You can also play out the stones early to get the extra value. It is a very popular deck right now, so we do end up in a lot of mirror matchups. Sandman also getting buffed made it very popular to kind of counter this deck with a Sandman, so we'll have to watch out for that. So a lot of the times you don't want to be holding on to cards too late if your opponent can get a Sandman out. Lockjaw, also one of the good cards that you could get early to help you draw. Here, we do have the Quinjet. I was going to say there's a good chance they retreat because Lockjaw early is great. They were able to time stone out, but Mintra's Lab shuts down any Lockjaw plays until the final turn, so they probably want to get out of there. I do think one of the best cards you can get early is the Lockjaw. You want to also hold M'Baku a lot of times to play into the Lockjaw on the final turn so that you can pull M'Baku back out, or I guess he'll fly back out of your deck. So with Nidavellir, I want to save some different cards for there. The Soulstone I think is better not on Nidavellir. Sunspot. So this person probably doesn't run Killmonger, so we don't have to worry about our armor. So here we have a question of, do we want to play the Space Stone out now or hold it for our Lockjaw? I think it is better to hold it for the Lockjaw. So we're going to skip this turn. We could also just play Ant-Man out, might also be a consideration. I think that is actually an okay choice to make here. And it is now protected by the armor, so nothing that they can do can kill our Ant-Man now. And now I do have this Lockjaw. We do have Kunlun, which gives +2 for a card that moves there. We have the Space Stone, which can move cards, so I think it's a pretty good idea to play the Lockjaw over here. We're going to play the Mr. Fantastic Man, I think the Space Stone onto Titan. This way, anything that comes out of the Lockjaw, we can move the next turn. We get the Mr. Fantastic in the middle. And then we can move whatever card we want into Kunlun, potentially. So I think it is correct to move this here. I think we just play the Mind Stone, Reality Stone. I think it is correct to play the M'Baku as well here. We are going to fill up this lane. We're hoping to pull out the Khazar and the Blue Marvel, or the Thanos, or the Spectrum. Any of those combination of cards. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do any sort of on reveals on the left here because of Cosmo. I think I'm going to end my turn. This is going to be a little bit weird of a turn. We do pick up 2 more of our stones here. Alright, we have the Blue Marvel. Quinjet is great, meaning if we end up getting Thanos out of here, we might be able to finish off the rest nice. So now when we play out, I think the Time Stone is the last stone that we have to play, so we should get the buff Thanos from the Power Stone here. The question is, do we have enough to win on the left? So, or middle. We could just Valk middle. We don't have anything buffing middle, but we do have the Soul Stone, so that should be enough to win mid. They shouldn't stay in this game, I don't think, is the one thing, because we're going to end up getting the Thanos bigger. We have armor over here to protect. We have 3 stones to play out as well. There's no way he can arrow us. I don't think they're running Killmonger if they're running Sunspot. I think Killmonger is the only consideration here that we're a little bit worried about. We are only getting an additional 18, like 15, 18 plus 3, 21 power, 21, 29. So we do end up winning here if he plays out 6 energy and plays nothing over here. So we'll have to see. So that's 1 plus 5, I assume. Yep, Red Skull. But that's just going to get nuked from the Valkyrie. We end up completely dominating this lane with the Soul Stone and the Lizard debuff. And we end up winning out over here as well by 1. And M'Baku had no space. We actually could have left the space here instead of playing out the Mind Stone for M'Baku for 1 more power, which we should have taken into consideration. So here the consideration is, do we want to get the extra draw, or do we want to have the Time Stone for later to maybe play out a bigger card? If you play the Time Stone on turn 3, then on turn 4 you can play out a 5-drop, which is usually pretty useful. So I'm going to play the Ant-Man into the Shadowland. This can be our Valk lane that we maybe want to do with the Ninja. It can end up being okay. So ongoing effects being doubled is pretty good for us, considering we have Blue Marvel and Khazar in our deck. We can play a Space Stone here if we want to move the Ninja. But I don't think we do want to move the Ninja. I think I'm just going to play a Space Stone mid. I'm going to hold the Time Stone again for turn 3. We have the Mind Stone and the Time Stone. I think one thing to note is that you probably want to play the Mind Stone first a lot of the times, because then you will draw your stones first and then you'll draw a random card. Because if you play a Time Stone, there's a chance you'll draw a stone, which lowers, I guess it's just like, you want to draw a non-stone a lot of times for turn 4. I think we want to draw a Leech, ideally, since we're playing the Time Stone out. I'm going to play 1 card in the Strange Academy just to kind of clear that up. And I'm not going to play M'Baku out because I want to save that in case we draw a Lockjaw. Alright, well that kind of sucks. We don't get the benefit of the Time Stone. We can now play the Reality Stone over here. We have pretty bad draws, I would say. I'm going to play out the Power Stone. I don't think we play out M'Baku still. I think we might actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to play M'Baku. That way I can play Valkyrie, and then I can play Thanos maybe. Yeah. I probably should have played these 2 cards in reverse order. So with Titania, it's going to lock up our lane over here. Going to be a huge problem for us. Yeah. But now they have to play a card on the right here, so it's not the absolute worst. On the final turn, they have to play that card. We have played every card except for the Soul Stone. So we could play Quinjet and Khazar, but then we have only 1 spot left because of the Titania that they played onto us. So I'm thinking we just play Valkyrie out, buff up our cards over here, hope we can win with maybe a Thanos. Mid, we could play Khazar here as well if we Khazar Quinjet. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to be enough to win, though. Maybe Blue Marvel Quinjet would be better if we end up getting it next turn. The Red Skull is actually kind of interesting in Onslaught Citadel because we get double buff there. We do get the Blue Marvel. So Blue Marvel Quinjet. The Quinjet is going to be worth 6. Blue Marvel is going to give an extra 2 to all these. So that's 12 plus 3. Is 15, so we go to 25. So we do end up winning mid. He has to play 1 card to the left, so he probably plays 1 card here, 1 card here. Lizard gets double debuffed here, so it's going to -1. So he's going to go to -6 value here, so he's going to 17, and we'll be at 25. So I do think that we're okay. I do think that we're going to end up winning this. We're going to lose the 3 value here. He gets +5, plus whatever he has. We get +6, -3, so we get so we go to 7. So we are going to lose the left. So it all comes down to how big of a card he plays mid. It has to be like a 10 power card. Well, a 9 power card. All right, he did not play anything there, so I think we're just good. We just end up winning the game. Yeah, Captain Marvel's not going to be enough. It is a good play, though. The Captain Marvel basically steals Titania back, plus can move to a different lane, but we just played too much value mid. His Lizard plus his Red Skull and Onslaught Citadel was not a great move by him. But I do know Kaladin is a good player, so just a couple missteps there. Into the final game here. We once again drew M'Baku, which is okay if we get Lockjaw out. I'm going to play the Soulstone out just so that we can draw Lockjaw. I'm going to play the Soulstone mid here into one of the unrevealed locations. I think that this is okay here just because there's a chance we get something good for the Soulstone on this location. Asgard is okay. We do have Lockjaw now. Once again, I want to hold the M'Baku or the Lockjaw until later. I'm going to play the Power Stone in here. Try and cheat out one of our bigger cards this turn. We don't really have to do it so early is one thing, since we do have Elysium, which can give us a lot of time, but we're just going to see what we get. If we get like Spectrum or something, it's a little unfortunate because it's a waste, but getting Khazar early is actually great. Collapse Mine with Khazar even. I still think it's probably worth full skipping here to blow up our mines. I don't think we're going to try and win the Collapse Mine. So we both skipped, both killed the mine off. We have priority. We can leech them. I think we want to leech. I think we want to remove Elysium because we're running out of value with Elysium. So I'm just going to play out my cards. I can play out M'Baku as well. I think is fine this turn. Yeah, I think it's fine. Because we're going to have a turn 5 and then maybe a 6 drop for our final play. So we want to really have a turn to play M'Baku unless we end up getting Quinjet out. And just as a note, as with most of my review games, Shuri's Lab is actually really bad for us here. But most of my review games, I do not play for the cubes. I don't really snap because I want to explain how to play the deck. So a lot of times I will end up snapping. Okay, so we've played every single stone if we play the rest of these out, so Thanos will get the power here. So now the question is, do we want to... I think we do. I think we just play these out. And then on the off chance he plays Killmonger, which is very unlikely with this discard archetype. I think I want a Valk on the right here on the final turn with the Power Stone. But I think I should play the Power Stone out. There is a chance to draw like Quinjet or M'Baku. We do have M'Baku coming out anyway, so... Or Quinjet, I guess, is, yeah, so... With the Quinjet, just another thing we could play out. So we do have a Valk. We have priority, so it doesn't really do too much. We could Valk mid. It buffs up our stone, and it debuffs these 2 units. I think that's probably a better play here. I think I want the M'Baku to come out of our deck, so I doubt he's running like goblins or something, so we can make this. Generally, I would just play the Quinjet up. But yeah, we're gonna let the M'Baku come out. They retreated, as they probably should. They probably didn't have too much in the way of solving the issues with this deck, just putting out so much power. Yeah, like pulling the Thanos out, pulling the Khazar out, but he did have Shuri's Lab to play on too, but he played the Dracula here, which is just a little unfortunate for him that it turned into Shuri's Lab on that turn. But yeah, so all these games kind of showed this deck just is really powerful. We didn't really get a Spectrum play, but a lot of times it does just add a lot of power on a final turn, even in a locked up lane. Sometimes your opponent won't expect, like when you have 3 ongoing cards in a lane, like this is 2, this is 1, here's another one over here. Like you just have a bunch that will get buffed up. They won't expect the Spectrum on the final turn. They won't expect the Valkyrie. A lot of people don't expect the Leech, but they're starting to, just because in Lockjaw list, Leech is becoming much more popular. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think of this deck. I think it's pretty cracked. We'll just see with the most recent changes if this deck will still be popular. If it's more popular, I think it's going to be dominating the meta for the time to come. It's really great against the Shuri list. Unfortunately, we didn't get a play against one of them. I guess we did, actually, because we faced a couple of the Red Skull decks, but I guess they just didn't have Shuri with it. But yeah, I think this deck is really good. Give it a try. Let me know what you think.